Hello again, welcome to episode 93 of Fora Heroes de Midioneda, the Middle-Aged Outlaws. We are in the Middle-Aged Temple, ready to discuss things all Dario Cueto, Chavo, Guerrero, and just general luchadorness. Adam, we are taking on season 1. Well, let's not go too far as to say we're taking on season 1 of Lucha Underground. Let's say we have watched 4 episodes of Lucha Underground season 1, and Adam's intention is to continue watching. How's it going, Adam?
Yeah, good. Yeah, we'll get into, what we thought. This is really different. This is really different from anything that we've done in the previous 90 plus episodes. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Let's get into it. I've got a little bit of background here about Lucha Underground, and then we can just get in. We've watched the first 4 episodes. There's a few ways we could do this. In the past, we've talked through episodes of Raw, where we've watched a few episodes of Raw and we've just basically talked through it in chronological order. This is a little bit different. Remember the last episode I said to you, this is more TV show that's got wrestling in it as opposed to watching a wrestling show. Do you get where that was coming from now?
Yes.
Now that you've sampled some of it? Yeah,
because I heard what you were saying, and to try to predict in my mind what that was going to look like, I don't think I would have guessed it quite like it is. It's funny because certainly WWE and WCW in the later days felt like they wanted to be a TV show that had wrestling in it, but never in quite the way this is done, where it's kind of like a film or drama thriller series that's then got these wrestling moments quite regularly through it. It's not like loads of it is backstage and all that, but they are going for a sort of an overview of this TV show, and then you're just dropped into the storylines going on.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. People always say like, "Oh, wrestling's just soap operas for men," sort of thing. Like, yeah, I do get that, but there's a bit more to it. But this kind of is like a soap opera, sort of thing. I'm going to take this luchador mask off because it's all. I mean, that's how long we've been going. 3 minutes. I'm taking it off. 2 seconds. El Madrigal is no more. Okay, some background. Lucha Underground, executive produced by Robert Rodriguez of From Dusk Till Dawn and so many other films fame, debuted in October 2014 on the El Rey Network in the US. It presents a unique fusion of American professional wrestling and traditional Mexican lucha libre. The show was filmed in a warehouse called The Temple in Boyle Heights, Los Angeles. The episode features, or the show features several debuts of Mexican luchadors and includes announcer Matt Stryker and color commentator Vampiro calling the action. The Temple's atmosphere is enhanced by a passionate crowd, creating an intimate yet intense environment for the matches. That's like scratching the surface, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of what this is all about. I was going to try and talk to you about what the basic premise is from the first 4 episodes that we watched for Lucha Underground, because that doesn't really tell us. I think the premise is that we're immediately introduced to this character, and in wrestling terms, you would describe him as the authority figure. In this show, this guy's played by an actor.
Yeah.
Which is class.
Yeah.
We're introduced to Dario Cueto. He talks about opening up his temple to the greatest luchadors in the world. And that's basically it. There's no belts, which is quite cool and totally novel. He's got a $10,000 filled briefcase.
Yep.
But essentially, he comes out and says, "This is my temple. It's open to any fighter in the land. Let's see who's the best." And that's it.
Yep. Very different. That's immediately very different.
Another thing that's different that we've not had at all over these episodes has been mixed gender matches, which we get very quickly as well. How would you like to do this? Do you want to talk about stuff you liked and disliked, or do you want to just go through the episodes and chat about them?
So I think the way I've got it in my notes is I have gone through basically each segment of each episode, and then at the end of each episode I think I've written kind of what I enjoyed from that and what is sort of concerning me.
Okay, we could do that then.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say something there. The episodes, there's again like likening this to a wrestling show. There's no backstage, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's no traditional interviews or promos, really. There's the action in the ring, which we get and can often be set up by cutscenes from places like Dario Cueto's office, which is part of the set next to the ring, which I really like. And then there's these sort of cinematic things. The only thing that I think that we get that is similar to another to a normal wrestling show is the sort of video vignettes of the likes of Prince Puma training, and things like that. But yeah, so okay, cool. Let's just talk through the episode and then say what like sort of summarize what you liked and disliked. Cool, let's go for it.
Okay.
So Dario Cueto kicks us off with his, and I think from Dario Cueto's introduction, we're straight into Blue Demon Jr. and Chavo Guerrero in the ring.
Yeah, I was quite, one of the things, not apprehensive about, but one of the things I wondered about was how many names on this are actually going to ring a bell with me, no pun intended. And I thought it was interesting and probably deliberate to have Chavo Guerrero in match 1, because he is a known name to wrestling fans who are maybe just giving this a try as something a little bit different. Did Blue Demon Jr. mean anything to you?
Doesn't mean anything to me, no. From the way that they present him, Blue Demon is a luchador name, a famous family, Mexico, I assume.
Yeah.
This is not the greatest match, and I have to be honest, I was concerned about you watching the first episode and going, what are we doing here? Because I don't think this is for me. But I think maybe the fact that we did the first 4 has maybe helped. But yeah, it's not a great match, but it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, what I was maybe a little bit surprised by was, and this kind of runs quite a lot of the way through, there is quite a mix of wrestling styles, because you hear lucha and maybe you imagine a certain type of match, and I think we both know I'm not the biggest fan of flippy shit. I like to see, I'm kind of usually in it for the storyline and things like that, rather than lots of high impact moves one after the other. But certainly in this, there was quite a lot of mat wrestling, and I was immediately, I have to say, quite impressed by Matt Striker, who I felt like right from the off was trying to fill you in on who these guys were, why, we're immediately, and he's got Vampiro there with him, and you're getting information about these guys' 2 families, and it being wrestling, a strong wrestling heritage from each. So I thought right from the off they were quite a good announced team. I think Matt Striker leads it well, and I was never impressed with him in WWE. Was he the guy that came in with like a school teacher gimmick thing or something like that?
Was he called Matt Striker in WWE?
I think they changed him to Matt Striker. I think he started off with a different name though. But yeah, I thought he was pretty good, and the match wasn't the best match you'll ever see. But I did immediately think, they're kind of mixing quite a few different styles on the go here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think just on your commentary team comments there, I don't think they could have got a better pairing. It'd be very hard to see JR and Jerry King Lawler sit here, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think these two complement each other brilliantly. I love the way Vampiro just says these sort of off the cuff comments like, "Oh my god, dude, that's going to hurt in the morning," sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's letting Matt Striker very much lead it, but him coming in with some of these phrases, and also I felt like he was tearing into Chavo from quite early on. Described him as, I think, the red-headed stepchild of the Guerrero family, and saying it was only Eddie who was ever really truly loved.
And he's also getting on to it later on, but he doesn't ever miss an opportunity to stick the boot in on Konnan at some point.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think that's legit. I do think that they've got a thing, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I was the same with Lucha generally. I don't think I know what Lucha Libre is, really. Now that and I don't think that this is the perfect example of Lucha Libre either. But I think I've got a better idea now than I did before this. Even stuff like whipping them into the turnbuckles, they barely do it and they just go. And I think when you're doing that in something like WWE or AEW, it just looks lazy. Whereas in this arena where that's the style, then you accept it for that being the style. What do you think of that? Blue Demon Jr. put in a sort of sharpshooter type thing where he also pulled the arm at the same time. I quite like that.
Yeah, and I think so. That's the finish, isn't it? And Chavo taps pretty quickly.
He does.
He's just wanting to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, he says disgracing the Guerrero name, and that's the storyline we're going with, which is quite cool. From there, we go to this sort of cinematic scene of Dario Cueto sitting with a very sweaty-looking Konnan. It's obviously very hot in the temple. And this is how we are introduced to Prince Puma, who's Konnan's protege that he's pulled off the streets of somewhere. He's got the luchador in his blood, according to the streets of LA, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's got the luchador in his blood, according to Konnan, and I think he's just, he's really talking him up. He's the next best thing. But so Dario Cueto says, "Well, I've signed the biggest free agent in the business. Who do you think it was going to be, Adam? 2014?"
Yeah, I didn't really have any names coming to mind straight away, I have to say. It was a funny one, this, though.
What's that?
In a way, Dario Cueto is talking up that he's brought in this massive name, but he's really quickly talking about how he's only come for the fame and the money, and he needs somebody to make an example of him.
Make an example of him, yeah.
Yeah.
I do quite like that. I like the idea of, like, you've started something and I've brought in this big name and we're going to cut him down to size, use his name to cut him down to size. It's Johnny Mundo, which is John Morrison.
I think there's it's quite interesting the way that, I think in WWE, and I'm not so sure about, I've forgotten the other one's name. The other established. That's it.
The other established promotion.
That we're kind of, you get quite fatigued by authority figures. They've been a thing for decades in wrestling, and I don't know, it doesn't seem to have ever worked as well as it did way back. But this does feel a little bit different in that this guy, he's not on screen in the same way. He's on screen, but he's not in a ring speaking to people. You're getting glimpses into what is his business dealings, it seems like. Which I thought made it a bit more interesting, the way he was talking about, I've brought in this, this huge free agent talent and all that. And so it did almost come across like, I'm going to show that I'm not going to let people come in and use my company for fame and fortune, which was a different felt like a different spin on it. Yeah.
I think also, like, generally, we've seen it all before, but we've never seen this before. I'd never seen this guy before. Like an authority figure like Bruce Pritchard in TNA, you're like, oh my God, for goodness sake, sort of thing. I don't know, William Regal came into AEW, you expect him to just run the whole thing that he did in NXT, and I don't know, everything's copying each other. This feels totally different. Like, even going back to what I said earlier, like, the guy's an actor. It's just, I love it. Absolutely love it. I like the way he's like a sort of nefarious wee bastard as well. He's like sitting there like evil laughing sort of thing at his desk and all that. So we're from this, we're setting our main event for this first episode, which is going to be Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. Do you know who Prince Puma is under the mask, Adam?
I don't know.
Do you really not?
No.
I'm surprised. I'm going to keep it secret.
Okay.
See if you can work it.
Okay.
We get a little video vignette of Konnan training Prince Puma. Prince Puma. I like it. Like, we loved Konnan in TNA.
Yeah.
We liked him in WCW as well when we were going through 98 and all that. He's got I think I'm similar to MVP, and I don't think it's just because they're carrying canes. Like, they've got this knack for getting you invested in whatever it is they're talking about.
Yeah.
He's talking about 7 Aztec tribes and all that. And I'm like, yes, I love it.
What I did feel like some of these segments gave you is kind of a bit of background about what Lucha Libre is about, and going into it cold, which I did completely. That kind of thing. It brings you in. It makes you feel like you're along for the ride with it.
Yeah, nice. So that's sort of setting us up for what's to come at the end of the episode. In the meantime, we go back to the temple. We've got a match here. We've got Son of Havoc. What is that sort of mask he's wearing? Like a sort of executioner type mask. Yeah. And he's going to be taking on Sexy Star.
I knew I'd heard the name before, and I think Sexy Star ended up a little bit maybe blacklisted. Did she legit hurt somebody? I think so. In a match.
Yep. Yeah. She appears to be in quite a big deal in Mexico as well. I liked that they do this vignette for her as well, and like Sexy Star, and you see her and she's got the luchador mask on. There's something no right about seeing a woman with a lucha mask on to me.
It's different. Yeah.
And she talks about a Sexy Star. It just sounds like dead cheesy. But she says, women are sexy, women are stars, and I'm sort of representing for them. I was like, oh, that's all right, actually. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
What do you think of their match? Son of Havoc's like, he's like laughing at her, and he's not fighting a woman.
He's kind of not having it at the start. I think he invites her to just leave the ring and get counted out, and she teases doing it, but as soon as he's turned round, she runs in and attacks him from behind. We've got him getting control, and then I think is it a flying crossbody off the top? That's for a 2. I think she pulls the Son of Havoc pulls the tights to. It felt well. They're telling the story like he kind of had to cheat to win the match. He dominated quite a bit of the match, but yeah.
She was doing the plucky underdog, Johnny Gargano type thing, but it was quite good because it was not silly in that she was like performing these like power slams on him and power bombs and whatever. She was doing little flurries, and then he would cut her off, knock her down to the ground. Yeah, it was pretty good. Where do we go from here? Is this we're getting towards the end of the episode already, aren't we?
Yeah, so I've got a bit about the what's his name? The owner man,
Dario Cueto.
Dario Cueto.
This is my temple.
He's talking to Chavo about his defeat and talking about how he tapped out, and this is he's let down the Guerrero family. And he's just kind of running him down, and Chavo's looking a bit like a broken man.
He says, "What would your grandfather think? What would your uncle think?" Yeah. Oh, everyone knows what that means. That's horrible.
Yeah.
So Dario says to him, "I'm going to." They don't. That's one thing that I had an issue with, is they don't establish that for some reason Dario Cueto wanted Blue Demon Jr. taken out. He wanted him defeated. Yeah. But he says, "I'm going to bring in someone who's going to do the job that you couldn't do." to Chavo. And that takes us to our main event. Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma for the main event. Did you stop taking notes at how fast this stuff was, or was that later?
I did find it a little bit tricky. I messaged you saying that when there's just move after move after move, I find it difficult to watch and take notes at the same time. And also, I don't think it happened too much in this match. I think it's a bit later on where I don't know what the moves that are going on are called. And just seeing guys do stuff.
Spinning, flying.
And I think it actually plays out in the commentary, because I think there's a few times where Striker will call something, and then Vampiro will kind of correct him, and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Class. I can't hold my water. Prince Puma is Ricochet.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay.
If you told me we were going to watch a show and the main event was John Morrison Ricochet, you'd be like, what we're watching? Like, main event? But it's so funny how like things like this, differently framed, can feel bigger than they are.
They're positioning Johnny Mundo as a star. And, he's got that about him. He's got charisma. He's got star quality about him. And they are really bigging up Prince Puma coming in as this. You've always heard it, and everyone everywhere's heard it. If Konnan's pushing a guy, he's got something. Konnan's bringing somebody to the table. They kind of got that automatic buy-in because he's one of Konnan's guys. And you can tell pretty quickly by putting him up against Johnny Mundo that they want to establish him as a star as well.
Yeah, and they're very much positioning Konnan as this guy who's kind of got his ear to the streets in Mexico, and he knows what's new and what's cool. And I guess there's some sort of, I think AAA owned Lucha Underground, or it's a shoot off or whatever. And I think we did see a video of Dario Cueto turning up in like a AAA ring, like emptying a suitcase of money or something. But I tried looking that up on YouTube and couldn't actually find it anywhere.
Okay.
But Konnan's had involvement with AAA for quite a long time, I think.
Okay.
I thought it was a really good match, and yes, there was the high impact, high flying moves, but not like 100 mile an hour ridiculous bouncy all over the place. Like they were making things like clotheslines look really impactful.
Yeah.
There's some good chain wrestling and submission stuff going on and all that sort of stuff. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good match, and I think it's they're also giving you a bit of a story going through here. You touched on the briefcase with is it $100,000 in it?
Yes.
And it's expected that the money is going to be awarded to whoever the winner of this match is at the end of the night. You've got Vampiro talking in the background about how impressed he is with Prince Puma, but also his concern about the association with Konnan and how that's going to corrupt him. And I was like, that's interesting. That's a nice little wrinkle we've got on the go here. But yeah, I was pleased to see selling, because I think coming in, that was one of my biggest concerns. Am I going to see that these moves are impactful? Because that's always important for me when I'm watching a wrestling match. I
think Morrison was certainly doing a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how green Ricochet is at this point, 2014. I've no idea. But I think I agree. And it might be, we got a triple threat further down the line that's 3 new luchas, and that might go out the window, but I can't actually remember, but we'll get to that. But with this, definitely a lot of selling, a lot of high impact stuff. It was really good, and the tempo of the match, they build it, I think, to the finish that they get, and they very much earn the sort of standing ovation that they get inside the temple. How many people would you reckon's in that?
It was really hard to judge, because it was all kind of dark, wasn't it? The ring was lit, but the whole sort of vibe of the show is quite dark as well. Like even the bits with Dario Cueto, they are in the dark, it seems like. I don't know, a few hundred.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't didn't look like a huge arena. I think there's one episode where they showed you a little bit more of it because of what was going on around the ring.
It's cool. I like that smaller, intimate thing with it. I'm sure the atmosphere was great.
Mm-hmm.
How to get the win? Does he? Because there's a fair few close finishes as we come to expect towards the end.
Yeah, there's Johnny hits a standing Spanish fly,
yeah,
and then there's a sort of like a corkscrew move off the top, which I think was referred to as the end of the world, that he gets the pin from.
Nice. So that we've built up Prince Puma. There's no shame went into the hottest free agent out there. So a win for Johnny Mundo, Dario Cueto. I love the way Dario Cueto comes out of his office and walks to the ring. There's something authoritative that's not like Vince McMahon walking with his grapefruits, but there's something about him. And he says Johnny has earned the $100,000 in the briefcase, and Johnny goes to take it, and just out of nowhere, two little Hispanic-looking gangbanger guys come flying out of nowhere, and according to my notes, one absolutely fucking massive guy.
Yes. Because when I saw the first two guys, I was like, you know that thing where the people don't grab you in any way? You're like, it's just two guys. They could replace them next week, and I wouldn't know. But then when you see the third guy, he's absolutely huge.
Do you recognise him?
I felt like I did, but I just didn't know where from.
Okay, so he was Ezekiel Jackson, the last ever ECW champion.
Oh, right, okay.
And WWECW.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I know the name Ezekiel Jackson, but this guy, this big Ryck, he's just huge. Total. I think later on, I've got reference to him as Suge Knight in my notes, and I think eventually Stryker says something about him being like Suge Knight meets somebody else or something like that. He's definitely given off that with the big cigars and all that.
Yeah.
Vampiro says, is it okay for gangbangers to come in off the street and attack people in the temple or something like that? Dario says, these guys work for him, and Big Ryck grabs the briefcase as we go off the air.
Ain't nobody taking that off him. That's his now.
Nah. So I think they wrecked both. They wrecked both
they did.
Puma and Johnny Mundo.
Yeah.
And that tied up the episode.
Yeah.
I liked it. Now that we've talked through it, I liked it. Yeah, I liked it better than I definitely expected to. So it'd be good to hear your likes and dislikes.
I liked the main event match. The other matches, I think my issue with the other matches were, I know who Chavo Guerrero is. He's established. I felt like there were quite a few people showing up that I just didn't know. Is there going to be anything that I remember about these people when I see them again? And one of my concerns is probably really disrespectful to all masked wrestlers in general. I like seeing facial expressions in matches.
Right.
And you know, it's not a surprise. You're going to see a fair few masked wrestlers in a show called Lucha Underground, and I just wasn't sure if you're who was the guy in the first match with Chavo, Blue Dragon,
Blue
Demon, and if Son of Havoc were going to be in any way memorable to me as the episodes keep going.
Yeah, you think you're getting sort of jobber from them a little bit.
Yeah. But I liked the match, the main event match. I liked the stuff with Dario Cueto, the way it's done, the sort of structure of the show. I enjoyed, and I thought the announce team were really good.
Nice. That's pretty positive.
Yeah.
Cool. Shall we jump into the second one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so something I like about this is the sort of continuity. They're only 44-ish, 40 odd minutes.
Yeah.
And we are kicking off with the exact same three guys who finished off. There's no entrances. There's no hello everybody and welcome to.
Yeah.
It's a TV show. We're into the action and we're seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
We're straight in with the three guys from who interrupted Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. They introduce themselves Cortez Castro, Cisco, and Big Ryck. I love it. Again, no need to play any music. Johnny Mundo just comes running from somewhere and jumps the ring, starts fighting them.
Yeah.
Different. Big Ryck just decides, I think he's puffing on a cigar, isn't he?
Yeah.
He just takes a wander up the stairs. He's going to watch these two guys wreck up.
It's funny because I quite quickly, again, it's probably years of WWE programming being in my brain. But the first moment I saw Big Ryck, I thought, oh, this is like just your big guy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas right from early on here, he came across as the leader of this group. And it's not, it's like the other two guys are the guys that you have to get through if you want to get to him.
Mm-hmm.
Which
like
I thought was different. Yeah.
So Prince Puma comes as Big Ryck departs and decides to sit on the stairs. Imagine sitting in the crowd and that massive guy comes and sits next to you puffing a cigar.
I'd be tempted.
Prince Puma comes to join Johnny Mundo, and does Dario Cueto just come out and grab the mic and say, "Look, this is a tag match.
Yeah.
Get a referee out here or something like that."
Yeah, it's if you're going to fight, let's have a match.
That's the good thing as well. Like he's like, if you're gonna have a fight, let's make some money. Let's get you in the ring, and I like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that takes us right into a tag match: Prince Puma, Johnny Mundo versus Cisco and Cortez.
So the first thing I put in my notes, which they do play into a little bit later, is Konnan fine with this? Fine with Puma aligning himself with Johnny here, because he already knows that the man who signs the checks isn't a big fan of Johnny. So what's Konnan thinking of this?
That's a great point. You'd think he would need to be there to sanction a match for Prince Puma.
But it does feel a little bit different, doesn't it? Because you do see it at times, but Konnan wasn't, there present at ringside, which you usually associate with. If he was that kind of figure in WWE or WCW, would definitely be at ringside for every match.
Distracting the referee.
Yeah, but again, in this environment, it wouldn't make sense for him to be ringside, because it immediately went into my mind, I don't think he'd be happy about this. I don't think he signed off on this. You've just gone and done your thing, Prince Puma.
Nice. I was thinking about the referee. I thought you were going to say poor Rick Knox, the referee, is being forced to referee with a broken arm. He's got a huge big cast on his arm. I thought these two guys just reminded of two homicides tearing about the place, doing all these sort of crazy moves. They were pretty good in the ring. Like they were. I enjoyed them.
Interestingly, I think it's the announcers kind of explaining this, that there's not the same kind of rule set as you have in other companies, where it is, if you do that, that's a disqualification. It's more, I think they say the referee uses his judgment in terms of if he thinks things are getting out of hand or gone too far, he'll call it, which leaves it a bit more open to some shenanigans, but still with the ability to try and control things.
Reel it in a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of definitely fits in with the type of program it is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Watching this match, it made me think, I can't believe Ricochet and John Morrison were in WWE at some point and they never made them a tag team, because some of the stuff they were doing was brilliant.
Yeah, it was good.
At what point do you become bored of seeing people jump over the top rope and dive to the outside? Is it by the time this match is on, or later?
A bit later. I felt like the before I knew who he was, the athleticism of Puma is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it makes sense now that that's Ricochet. But yeah, there's a lot. There's leaps over the ropes. There's leaps through the ropes. There's a lot of it.
I don't think I ever got bored of it, but I can imagine you going like, right, okay. It's a really good match. What have I got here? My notes just refer to mental moves and the lad kicking out, like that's helpful. But Puma and Mundo win by both hitting simultaneous. If I ever say simultaneous, I think Harold and Kumar simultaneously. Simultaneous 450s. And they get the win. It's a really good match. A fun way to kick off a show.
I wouldn't want to be Cisco or like the way Big Ryck is looking at. He's not happy.
He's raging. Brilliant. Who is Prince Puma? I've got here Konnan in the locker room with PP, and I was like, who's that? And just like you referred to, we go straight to what you talked about there. Vampiro said it as well. Konnan is not happy with Prince Puma at all.
Yeah. He says something like, you only have one friend, and it's me. And he's got to stay away from Johnny because this ain't his fight.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a very healthy relationship for Prince Puma, does it?
No.
It's a bit of a pimp in a hole sort of relationship.
I think Vampiro's right here.
Yeah, I guarantee you that you don't like the next character we get introduced to. The man of 1,000 deaths, Mil Muertes. We get some background on him. Mil Muertes, who Dario Cueto has brought to the temple to deal with Blue Demon Jr. He appears to be some sort of fantastical type character.
Yeah.
Is that enough, or
Yeah, I did think to myself, I'm not sure if this is going to be for me. This guy, although Katrina, but yeah, you know.
Would you like to be marked by Mil Muertes?
No, not sure it's worth it. The guy's pretty built, to be fair.
He is indeed. He is. We go to the ring. Something that it seems to do is continue storylines. Like, we get sort of, we're talking about the jobber type characters, but they're continuing their stories. So we've got Son of Havoc continuing his story with Sexy Star here. We've got Son of Havoc and Ivelisse taking on Chavo, Guerrero and Sexy Star. Vampiro, at one point, Son of Havoc, I don't know what he does, he must just punch Sexy Star, and Vampiro says he's just dislocated Sexy Star's face. It's a great line.
Yeah, I've never, this was a funny one for me, I've never been keen on, we had seen it in the past in the mainstream wrestling promotions where you would get male on female action. And then latterly it became
like the Edge and Lita thing, like to celebrate. Different. More like Dusty and what's her name? My Sweet Sapphire. So you have to say it like that. It comes out.
Sapphire. It became, I think, the rule that if the male tagged in, the male opponent had to tag in, but it's not that here. It's basically whoever's in, they can just go at it. I didn't feel like it hit too hard, and I don't know if that's because of the way this is presented, because it feels like a TV show rather than an in-ring competition at times. So maybe get away with it a wee bit more here.
This Ivelisse is pretty crazy. She's pretty psycho. She's like kicking the shit out of Sexy Star. I quite liked her. I think we get a pretty short match, actually, to be fair. Chavo gets the win. No, Chavo does not get the win, but he does hit a beautiful frog splash.
He does.
And lets Sexy Star get the pin on Son of Havoc.
Yeah.
And we get the Eddie chant after as well.
Yeah, I like that.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk through what happens next.
The next thing was that Blue Demon. Is this the Blue Demon and no? Yes, Blue Demon and Katrina.
Yeah.
Katarina has appeared and is giving him a warning for what's coming next. And she says, does she mark him at this point?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Is that with a kiss or a little lick?
She licks his face. She says, "This is a
face.
taste before 1,000 deaths."
Yes. Yes. So she is aligned with Mil Muertes. And yes, it's like a pre-match sort of warning, threat, this is what's coming type thing. I'm not sure how I thought that came across, to be honest.
They both, Mil Muertes and Katrina, as the way that they've been presented, they are appearing out of nowhere, but not in a like, oh my god, he's behind you sort of thing, but more of in a sci-fi, smoke comes in the door and then suddenly the person's there in a sort of charmed type, Sabrina the Teenage Witch type way. That takes us to Mil Muertes versus Blue Demon Jr. I have got a lot of notes for this match. Quite surprised.
Okay.
Like you say, Mil Muertes is wide as a barn door.
Yes.
He is massive.
And what did he have? He had something with him. Like
a little bag of something that he was like praying to or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think they told us what it was.
No.
Oh, I've got a lot of I've got a lot of notes here because there's a lot of shenanigans afterwards. I think that's what the issue is. This Katrina is doing a bit more of the typical heel valley type stuff, isn't she?
Yeah, like she seems to be up on the apron quite a bit, and she's doing some kicks on the outside. And she looked so innocent, but clearly not.
She looked so innocent. Class. I wasn't particularly impressed by old Mil Muertes in the ring.
He's got a little bit of a different sort of clubbing style, nice, I would say. Yeah. He's a big guy, and he's going for a sort of strong beatdown type style here.
Certainly works. Beats the shit out of old Blue Demon.
He does, yeah.
These backstabber moves that people do, where they like pull them from behind and they come down on their knees.
Yeah,
I didn't know how you ever do something like that without, like Bret Hart couldn't do that one because he prides himself no hurting another person. Like it just seems like something you couldn't do without hurting someone.
Yeah.
Blue Demon Jr. actually looks dead at one point. I think he gets speared by Muertes, and he's just, he's just lying there.
The announcers they're doing their best to put over Blue Demon and the legacy and things like that, which made me think, oh, this guy, this Mil Muertes, they're going to try and make him a big deal here.
He's getting the business.
Mm-hmm.
He does something called a flatliner, according to Matt Striker. After he speared him, picked him up, threw him up to the lights, threw him back down. He could have picked him up by the ankle and swung him round and round in sort of cartoon style. That's how much of a beatdown it was.
Yeah.
That's not enough, though. After getting the win, Mil Muertes climbs on Blue Demon Jr. and just starts tearing off at him, punches and whatnot, which brings out Chavo.
Yeah. I mean, fully believed Chavo was coming out, to defend the guy that he'd gone up against the previous week. He's going to stop this beatdown because he's a good, honourable guy. Is Chavo.
They've got these heritage families, the Guerreros and the Demons. But wrestling being wrestling, I actually didn't see it coming.
Nah, neither did I. And to be honest, this was the Chavo I wanted to see, so I was happy when it did happen.
Chavo turns and fucking rattles Blue Demon Jr. over the head with a chair.
Yeah.
He starts throwing refs about like he's Ken Shamrock after this, which was quite cool. And then the absolute cherry on the top, Sexy Star comes running out and she's pleading with Chavo just to calm down. And he fucking waffles her with a chair.
Yes.
He does not hold back. I don't know. He absolutely plasters her with it.
Yep.
And Blue Demon's getting taken away in a stretcher, and Chavo's attacking him whilst he's on the hanging out the ring, punching him. Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
There's a point where I think it's just before this because he's had the chair. He puts the chair. He sort of sets up the chair in the ring, and he's just sitting there laughing while they're putting the neck brace on Blue Demon.
Yes, Chavo. Yes, there's a puto chant from the crowd, and then it does kind of sort of minimise the damage he's done as the crowd are all like smiling, going, "Why, Chavo, why?" in sort of pantomime style.
Yeah.
It was good though. It was good.
Yeah.
What we got? Oh, that was the end of the episode.
Yeah, that was it. Chavo, so Sexy Star is laying there face down on the mat after the chair shot. He blows her a kiss.
Oh, Chavo. Brilliant. Beautiful work, Chavo.
From where he was last week. So obviously last week wasn't a good week for him. He's lost in the first match on the show, and he's just kind of seemed a bit of a broken man. He's being run down by the evil owner man and all that. He's come out and he's established himself as a heel here.
You can imagine Dario Cueto sitting in his office watching that through the window, like laughing and chuckling out at himself.
This is the reaction I wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I do like that the second episode didn't follow the sort of the first, in that we didn't wait to the end to get Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma, and it totally turned on its head, and you don't just feel like you're watching the first episode all over again, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was quite a good episode.
Yeah, I think the way it logically moved on from the second one, like you said at the start, from the first one, like you said at the start, the same people that ended episode 1 were there for the start of episode 2, and just continuing that bit of story. I think my concern from this was it tends to be, I think, 3, although I think we get 4 at a point, 3 matches per show,
right?
And there's still, other than Prince Puma, who's done a very good job of it, and Big Ryck, who is just in the background there lurking, absolutely terrifying. I'm still not feeling very connected to much of what I've seen in terms of some of the matches in the ring. Nobody's grabbed me yet, other than Prince Puma and the guys I already knew.
Right, okay. Nice. Cool. Is that sort of summarise your likes and dislikes?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoyed the Chavo turn, and we're going to, continue along that kind of arc as we go, because I feel like it's a bit of a story that you can sink your teeth into that's come along here. And I think the first story is that the way they developed it is making sense. You've got Johnny Mundo as the big star in the company. You've got the up and coming star maybe defying his manager to align himself with Johnny, but then the threat of, well, he could turn on him at any point, really, if he's got Konnan in his ear, and the fact that they're up against this group who are fully aligned with the owner. I'm fine with those stories. That's okay.
I feel like they're doing a really good job of making Prince Puma, we talked about the relationship there and the sort of pimp style relationship that they seem to have. And it goes back to what you were saying about facial expressions. Like Prince Puma is sort of this wide-eyed, almost childlike character that doesn't really understand how talented he is, and Conan's exploiting him for it, and he could even do heel stuff and not realise that's what he's doing.
I think that's the good situation that they've set up, is if he does suddenly at some point lash out against Johnny, you don't know that that's really him doing that voluntarily, because you know what the influence is from the other side. So there's plenty of potential there for where they go with it.
Nice. Cool. Do you want to kick off where we go for episode 3? I like that the episodes have got names. Cross the Border. Episode 3, Cross the Border. Yeah.
We get, I keep forgetting his name. I'm just calling him the evil owner because that's what's in my notes.
Dario Cueto.
Dario Cueto. We see the Dario Cueto riling up Chavo and planting the seed ahead of what happened last week with his rundown of him. We see Dario sitting down with Konnan, who says he's bringing some big talent in from Mexico. Fenix, Pentagon Jr. and Drago. And Dario Cueto proposes a match between the three. He wants to see them all in action. I quite like this. There's been behind the scenes storylines in wrestling for years that if Mexican wrestlers wanted to break through into the US, their guy was Konnan. He was the guy that could get them signed or some exposure on some of the big shows. So I feel like the fact that we're seeing that play out on the screen is totally realistic because we've been told that happened.
That's cool.
For years.
I quite liked that Konnan saying, I've got these three guys I want you to use, they're amazing, and he's like, okay, I'll put them all up against each other, see who's the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was kind of calling his bluff a little bit.
Yeah. And does he come out to the ring, Dario Cueto? He does.
He does, aye.
Yeah, he mocks the fans for saying that there's not enough lucha in Lucha Underground, and he says if you want lucha, he's got lucha for them. And then we've got a match.
Yes, he introduces so to meet the demand for more lucha, he introduces El Mariachi Loco. Not only does he play a mean trumpet, but he's also crazy, according to Dario Cueto. Like this guy was 1,000%. I was just like, oh, this guy's a jobber. El Mariachi Loco, the crazy trumpet player. And then we see who he's wrestling against. On a scale of 1 to 10, how annoyed were you that he was wrestling against a mini?
I'll be honest, I just kind of switched off.
Did you really? I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I watched it, obviously, it was on, but when I saw it, I was like, and I know, minis have been a big thing in Mexican wrestling for forever, as far as we're aware. But I think the fact he did the sort of bumming up El Mariachi and talking him up as soon as, what was his name? Mascarita Sagrada.
That's it, yeah.
As soon as I saw him, I thought, oh, he's going to win as well. That's what's going to happen here.
Does he win? He does, eh? Yeah, he rolls up the mariachi. And then Chavo comes running out and absolutely boots the wee guy. He knocks him off the ropes and kicks him into next week.
That was my favourite bit of it.
I'm sure it was. I think again, I feel like if this was in a big arena with fans that you could all see sitting videoing it and people with John Cena t-shirts on and that, I think I would switch off. I think I sort of buy into the TV programme part of it, and I was genuinely quite entertained.
One of the things I liked when Chavo came out, and it happened during the vicious Chavo chair shots the week before, is Vampiro started buying into Chavo, and he was talking him up and praising him for what he was doing. I think he laughed when he destroyed the little guy.
Yeah, he did.
And it was like, oh, so maybe it isn't so much that Vampiro didn't regard him as a good wrestler or whatever. He maybe just didn't see enough of Guerrero shenanigans in Chavo, and now that he's seen that, he's like, okay, I'll buy.
I think he was this. I think the story, he was disgusted for tapping out in that first episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he did keep mentioning that that's how you want to go out and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, he's just like, okay, I like that. He is laughing. He's like, maybe I think he says something like, maybe I judged him too early or something like that.
Yeah.
Which takes us into a very wrestling-esque thing that we've not seen on this TV show up until now. We cut off to, I don't know where, I can't actually remember, but it felt like a let's go backstage with Vampiro. Mm-hmm. He's sitting down with Chavo Guerrero. And they do the back and forth, but Vampiro's no built to be like a roving reporters type guy.
I thought that let it down a little bit because he's bigging him up to us when he's at the announce desk for what he's just been doing, but then it didn't feel like that really translated to the sit down interview.
No, he says to him, brother, you've got some issues.
Yeah.
I've got my notes here. Things aren't going well for you in life when Vampiro tells you that. Given that documentary we watched.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just an opportunity for Chavo to sort of sound off, get more of his character over. He's talking about having a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to be a star here, and not just the same old Chavo and all that sort of stuff, which is quite good.
Yeah.
We get so is that where we get Konnan meeting with Chavo, sort of in the guts of the temple somewhere?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because Konan's saying to him, you shouldn't have done that to Sexy Star. Mexico's coming for you. I've heard some things. If I was you, I would leave and all that sort of stuff. I really like that.
Yeah. I started to feel like, it's almost like it's Chavo's own episode here, which I was absolutely fine with, because so much of the last part of the last show, through the first half, I think, of this show felt very Chavo centered.
Yeah, like him coming out to him coming out to the ring during that Mariachi Loco and Masquerita Sagrado match was totally unexpected.
Yeah.
And it's quite sort of renegade behaviour, which I quite enjoyed. I believe Mil Muertes smokes his way in and appears behind Chavo, as does Katarina. Does she give Chavo the lick?
Yep.
Oh dear. That's bad news for your boy, I think.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. I didn't see anything in Mil Muertes to scare me.
Apart from what we talked about, what he did to Blue Demon, just apart from those things.
Yeah. I think Chavo could deal with all that, no bother.
Nice. I think he could too. Hit him with one of those tilt-a-whirl DDT things.
Yeah.
We get another sort of Mil Muertes jobber match after this, don't we?
They really tried to tell us a little bit of a Mil Muertes story about him being in an earthquake and being trapped and deciding to live and survive, or whatever it was. Or he'd been that close to death that he now fully understood death and all that. I was a bit like, okay.
This felt like the backstory to like the main bad guy in Bad Boys 5 or something like that. But
I think his name translates to 1,000 deaths.
Yes. They seem to be saying that he died in... Originally, the previous episode, I think they were indicating that he died, and they were speculating as to whether he was actually human. But in this backstory thing, they were saying he was on the brink of death and decided to live. Yeah, very, very one-sided beatdown. It's during this match that Matt Striker just throws out everything out the window and just starts talking about Katarina quite a lot. He even says at one point, "Can you turn me on?" Is it the same for anyone else?
It does, yeah. I started to feel like I was listening to some early WWE CW commentary right
there. Yep. Poor. We've not even said who it is he's wrestling. Ricky Mandela. I can't imagine we'll see him again.
Yeah, he just gets absolutely murdered. He gets licked by Katarina, but that's about it.
Silver lining. Okay, we go sort of to a sort of hall, dimly lit hall, which appears to be the hall on the way to Dario Cueto's office. We get like quite a theatrical scene of Johnny Mundo beating up two of the Mexican stooge guys, Cortez and Cisco. I did like that the last one that he battered, he kicked through the door, and the guy's just sort of lying there, and Dario Cueto sat at his desk looking up like...
It felt very, just for that second, it felt very Kung Fu movie.
It did, yep. I think that's what I'm liking about this show, in that it knows exactly what it's doing. Like, you're not expected to be taking it all seriously. It's got its tongue firmly in its cheek.
Yeah.
And you're in on the joke sort of thing, which is quite good. Why is Johnny Mundo at Dario Cueto's office?
He wants Big Ryck. He wants a match with Big Ryck. And then he tells Dario that when he's done with Big Ryck, you're next. This poor actor, man.
Poor Dario.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pulling the strings, but I mean, that's a bit much.
Yeah.
I mean, the balls on this man asking for Big Ryck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair play. And just sort of immediately after that, Dario pays Big Ryck a bunch of cash to put Johnny Mundo in the hospital. Is that all in the same scene there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What do you think of Prince Puma riding his motorcycle with a helmet over his lucha mask?
Yeah.
Surely that is very dangerous.
Yeah, doesn't seem safe at all. Yeah.
It's at this point I was thinking, all right, enough of the Prince Puma vignettes. I get it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
They're kind of ramming them down your throat a wee bit.
Yeah, a wee bit. And that takes us to our main event, which is a three-way dance. Do you know what I like? I like the ring announcer saying the following lucha is whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It is, like you said, Drago, Pentagon Jr, and Fenix. Any thoughts on Drago appearing to have like this incredibly long black tongue?
Didn't really have many thoughts about it, no.
And do you think he looks like Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn when she turns into the vampire?
I hadn't thought about that either. I try to put that bit out of my mind.
Class. Do you know any of these guys?
I felt like I knew the name Phoenix and I knew the name Pentagon Jr, but I didn't feel like I knew the name Drago.
Okay. We've seen Pentagon and Rey Fenix when we did AEW All or... No, it definitely wasn't called All or Nothing. I can't remember what the pay-per-view was called, but they fought the Young Bucks in a steel cage.
Ah, yes.
Lucha Brothers.
Yeah.
These two are brothers, like legit brothers.
Okay.
Pentagon just debuted as Penta on Raw last week against Chad Gable. This was just crazy. This was like, hyperactivity, the match.
This was a wee bit much for me.
I wondered.
I was kind of wanting Chavo to come out with a chair and just end it.
Class. This would have had a bit less of the selling that you were after.
Yeah.
I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff Phoenix does is like I'm sure being in the crowd would be really cool to see. Like some of these sort of corkscrew things that he's doing and all that. But to watch on telly, I think sometimes you see these things so much that you're just like, you become numb to them a little bit.
I think this match was maybe the first point. They definitely happened at points in a couple of other matches, but how choreographed some things looked started to get in my head.
Yeah.
I think there was a point where the two of them were up on the ropes at the turnbuckle, both clearly supporting each other for the purpose of getting up to the ropes. And I was like, and it happens in all wrestling promotions when folk are going for a move like that. But I think I was a wee bit like, okay.
And I do think that lucha is a lot more that way.
Yeah.
And I think, just need to sort of accept that that's going to happen. I think it's when it bleeds into, like we're supposed to have a believable match and Chad Gable is standing there for 10 minutes whilst whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought some of Vampiro's commentary was quite interesting here. There's a point where I think Phoenix has leaped off a high platform.
Oh, he dives off of Dario Cueto's office. The roof of the office.
It. Yeah. And the Matt Striker's, he's very excited by this. This says to Vampiro, do you think he's sacrificed too much? And Vampiro just like, yeah, obviously.
Class.
Just picture him be like, guys, just tone it down a little bit.
Really?
You want to have long careers ahead of yourselves. Don't do what I did. Don't be like unable to walk by the time you're 40.
Yeah, concussions are not the way forward.
No.
I really like Pentagon Jr. He reminds me of La Parka, and I don't know if some of his, not so much in the way that he wrestles, but his sort of character and his mannerisms and stuff like that. And I like some of the stuff he does in the ring. For me, Phoenix does too much. The Drago guy is quite small compared to the other two, so you don't really feel like he's as... Is that unfair? I was going to say he doesn't feel as impressive as the other two when you see big guys doing stuff versus a little one. But
yeah.
You've already picked up on the sort of big highlight thing as Fenix diving off the top of the office to them two standing at the side. We get a lot of dives out of the ring, a lot of dives from the top rope to the outside and all everything you sort of expect, I suppose.
Yeah.
This package pile driver that Penta does is pretty scary looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never keen when it looks like guys land on their head. I think it looked like it happened a couple of times in this match, but I don't know, did luchadors not care?
They just made a different bones, clearly. I enjoyed it. I think it's a sort of... I think as long as every match isn't this, then it's fine, 25 Canadian destroyers after each other is... Yeah, it's the Bart Simpson smoking all the packs of cigarettes again, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good fun. They got the big stand ovation as well. Fenix gets the win, but clearly I would guess they're going to use all three of these luchadors as the sort of mainer guys going forward. I'm 99% sure Rey Mysterio comes into this at some point as well. So that'd be interesting as well. Spoiler alert, sorry Adam. But
that's all right.
I don't know for sure, but I'm fairly sure I've heard that Rey worked in Lucha Underground for a wee bit. We close with Dario Cueto speaking to some hulking beast about what's he? Is he asking him to intimidate Johnny Mundo or something?
Yeah, so he's saying because of what Johnny Mundo did with beating up the guys basically guarding the door of the office, and then saying you're next. He says that he will not be intimidated by anyone, not even you. But that's where we don't actually really see who he's speaking to. It's leaving a little bit of mystery.
And is he revealed in episode 4 who it was he was talking to?
I don't know if it is.
It's not the same guy, this King Cuerno that we get in episode 4, is it?
I don't think so.
No. I was confused a little bit, I think. But okay, likes and dislikes from this? So
this, I got a little bit dives fatigued, like you talked about. What I have noticed, so I talked about how difficult I think it could be for some of the performers to put across emotion when you can't see their face, but some of them can. And it's really impressive to be able to do that. A lot of it is in mannerisms and things like that, just the sort of head down slump of the shoulders when people are a bit disappointed with something or something like that. So I was encouraged to see that. And what I really liked was the emergence of this Chavo character, which I don't want to see him as just another guy in a show like this. I'm happy to see him really healing it up.
Yeah, I definitely got that feeling from episode 1 where he came out and they presented him cool. He had like I don't know what he had on, but a sort of, what would you describe that as, a sort of Mexican poncho type thing he was wearing, and he did look quite cool. And then it was just like, face Chavo. Oh, he's Eddie's nephew sort of thing. Like, it's just all a bit boring, isn't it? So I like the way that's turned as well. Yeah. Okay, let's go into episode 4 then, shall we?
Yep.
We kick off with Sexy Star back in action against Ivalise. Sexy Star cuts a promo in English, does she, or does she cut it in Spanish?
I think it was in English,
unless
I was reading subtitles. I think she did the promo in English, and then I think maybe shouted a couple of things to the crowd that were Spanish.
So she's planning on finishing the Guerrero dynasty, which is quite an unbelievable thing to have said.
Yep.
I mean, yes, he did swing. Yes, he probably gave you brain damage, and that might excuse why you've said that, but that's quite a provocative thing to have said from old Sexy Star. She says the next time she sees Chavo, he better bring the chair with him. For somebody that couldn't beat Son of Havoc, I don't know if she should have been saying that either. Ivalise says that she's the baddest bitch in the building.
She did.
She meant it as well.
Yep.
Matt Striker, as clear, like they got the pilot out the way and he behaved, and then he describes this match as a feast of flesh.
Yep. He was almost going a little bit Quagmire at times.
Amazing. He is a bit, eh? Just sort of tripping over the line of uncomfortable for the viewer.
Yeah.
I don't know who won this match. Was it Sexy Star?
It was Sexy Star, but I think during the match she took quite a beating, and they're sort of selling the effects of the chair shot having been maybe a reason why Sexy Star isn't quite up to her maybe her usual expected standard, and she kind of steals the win with a roll up.
Okay. Yep. Yes. Because she at one point she looks like she's going for 3 amigos, but just does 2.
Yeah.
Confusing.
Yeah.
But then maybe she realised that she was going to end the Guerrero dynasty and decided not to pay homage to it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's quite a heel thing to say. I'm quite taken aback by her saying that, actually. What did you say that she did? She like injured someone on purpose?
Yeah, so there was an event where I think she's put a hold on, and then the opponent's tapped out, and she's kept the hold on, and then maybe broken her arm or something like that. But it sounded like it was intentional, and I think at the time it quite quickly came out that she was going to lose a lot of bookings, because obviously you can't do that.
Is this quite recent?
I think maybe about 3 years ago, or something like that. What I remember is, actually, it's maybe longer ago than that. I think Cody Rhodes was still in AEW, because I think he put something out saying that someone who does that won't work here, won't get a booking here, and it was AEW.
Cody.
Yeah.
Sweet summer child. That's brilliant. That is funny. Okay, so where does that take us? Dario Cueto and Drago? Yeah, the little dragon guy. Yes. Dario's unsatisfied by Drago's performance last week, which seems incredibly harsh.
Yeah.
Regardless of the result, they were throwing themselves all over the place. He wants to know what Drago's made of, so he's feeding him to King Cuerno. I do like that they constantly introduce new characters. We're in episode 4, and it doesn't feel like it's like, so who's this now? It's just more like, my God, they've got this sort of conveyor belt of crazy luchadors somewhere.
It kind of felt like, you know when a new show starts, a new TV show starts, you kind of have to immediately switch yourself on in your mind that all these people existed before I have tuned in to watch what's about to happen.
I like where you're going.
So
yes.
I think the fact that they are introducing these new characters is like, well, these guys were already here. You're just now seeing them for the first time, which I thought was quite interesting.
Great. I love that. I actually wrote in my notes, I think, for episode 1, this feels like a lived-in universe. It doesn't feel like I was comparing it to Welcome to Raw on Netflix. You know, it wasn't like, this is Lucha Underground. It felt like this is a lived-in universe. So totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, but we're running it back. We're getting Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. Again, do you think they went to this too early after last week's Triple Threat? Or, given the fact that we're watching them back-to-back, maybe... You know,
maybe. I didn't mind. There was a bit at the start. I think it was Pentagon, wasn't it, who was saying he's not respected in Mexico, and he's kind of going to take respect if people aren't giving it to him and things like that. I thought, okay, at least you're giving me a bit of character here, and they're quite quickly talking about the history these guys have. Pentagon and Phoenix having faced each other many, many times in the past. I don't know if it's the fact it was a 2-person match rather than a 3-person match meant that I was able to stay in it a little bit easier. Wasn't quite as many moves going on immediately one after the other after the other, which is going to happen in a 3-person match. So yeah, I didn't mind it as much here.
I wonder if they're ramping. You know, like you're talking about disrespect. Pentagon's lost that first match to Phoenix, and now he loses this match to Phoenix. I wonder if they're building something with him, which will be interesting to see. These sort of matches are not worth talking through, I don't think, because it's sort of meaningless, and I don't mean that like in a negative way sort of thing, but like there's just a lot going on. They're entertaining to watch, but they're not, you know, there's no story, a lot of storytelling going on.
Yeah, there's a little bit where I think they kind of had a lot of offensive moves by Pentagon, and Phoenix kind of wouldn't quit. They sort of had him doing that, just wouldn't give up, and eventually managed to get the win, which I thought, you know, at least they're doing a little bit in terms of a story there.
Yeah. Okay, we got our first introduction to King Cuerno. He is currently in WWE. I wrote down his name, Santos Escobar. He is in WWE. Okay. I think he's maybe like the leader of the LWO, maybe.
Okay.
I
didn't actually know the LWO was a thing again.
I don't know if it still is. It was for a bit. What's that? What's Aleister Black's wife called? God, I can't remember her name. I
used to know this.
She's really small. She was Andrade's valet for a while.
I can picture her. Yeah. And I used to know the answer to this.
I'm sure you can picture her. Anyway, this guy, Santos Escobar, King Cuerno, he was really good in NXT. He had a ladder match with Jordan Devlin or JD McDonough or whatever he's called in NXT, and it was brilliant, really good. Here he is. Yeah, he's an odd character. He seems to be wearing a giant stag's head, like a sort of crown. They're describing as a hunter. I don't know if he's like a bounty hunter type thing, or if it's more like the old guy from Jumanji.
Yeah, well, they were talking about the fact that he likes to keep trophies from his hunting, which can sound incredibly dark, but I think the sort of stag thing he was wearing made me think that they're probably talking animals.
It's a little too much, the stag head, I thought. It's almost too big to be wearing on your head. But yeah, I genuinely cannot remember watching this match, which probably doesn't say too much. Who wins?
Drago wins. Do you know what I found a little bit threw me off balance a little bit? And again, this probably plays into the fact that you have to accept this world existed before you dropped into it. Is there's a lot of guys get introduced and then beat. It seems to have happened a few times.
I definitely remarked on that as well. It's strange to introduce this guy and talk about him being a hunter and all that sort of stuff. But then Drago's, you were only introduced him to him last week.
Yeah, true.
I don't like that tongue thing that he keeps doing. It's like a kid, you know, when back at school when people used to like spit and leave like a massive big thing and then soak it back up. It's not nice. No. I liked what Drago did. Again, this was close. And a sort of surprise roll-up sort of thing. I like how he got this really absolutely no way telling you what he did, but it was all this sort of crazy roll-up reversal type thing that he did to get the win. It was cool.
Yeah. And it did, like you say, it kind of came out of nowhere after what seemed to be, I wouldn't say a dominant performance by King Cuerno, but certainly had a lot of offense.
He's got a very beautiful standing drop kick, as old Cuerno, Maven-esque. I'm sure people would probably use Randy Orton as the but that's basically Maven's moveset, was it not?
all I really remember Maven doing was it was a dropkick that eliminated Undertaker, wasn't it, from the Rumble, and then he not get his ass kicked after that.
Right, I remember the chair shot that Undertaker gave him.
Yeah, poor Maven.
Nah, Maven seems to be doing alright on YouTube. Like,
Was he?
you never seen his videos?
No.
Very charismatic individual.
Oh, fair play to the guy.
He does lots of things that everybody else does who've retired from wrestling. Talks about stuff that happened. You know, the type of stuff that Cornette would absolutely hate. So that's us introduced to King Cuerno. Be interesting to see if we are introduced back to him, or if that was his one and done, like Ricky Mandel and the crazy mariachi player. Yeah. We get a little bit more of Konnan talking to Prince Puma, stay out of Mundo and Big Ryck. I mean, he must have rocks for brains if he needs to be told to stay out that match.
Yeah. It's never occurred to me to get involved with Big Ryck in any way.
That's what Matt Stryker describes him as. Kimbo Slice meets Suge Knight, which is an absolutely brilliant comparison.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, this will sort of finish off our 4 episodes, which is our main event. Did you think that Big Ryck versus Johnny Mundo might be a bit shit?
Yes.
Did you think it was a bit shit?
Like, in terms of... I didn't think it was brilliant. I thought it was, for me, more about the story of what was going to happen.
Okay.
But I didn't hate it in terms of what happened in the ring. I think you've got Big Ryck. He's like big boy bullying Johnny for certainly early on for part of them. He's just chucking him round and beating the shit out of him. And then Johnny gets momentum going, and I think that's, that side of the story is fine. Try to use a bit of speed, a bit of skill, all that kind of thing. It was probably a little bit better than I thought it would have been.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it. I was thinking a bit of the old Bret Hart versus a broomstick type thing scenario going on. I thought Johnny Mundo did a great job of sort of bumping around and making it an exciting match. I expected this Big Ryck to be like horrendous. We've seen so many big guys that look at it's like sort of Nathan Jones type.
Yeah.
But he was all right. He was
fine.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I was disappointed at the finish, but we get Cortez and Cisco eventually interfering once Johnny Mundo starts turning up the speed, like you said, and getting on top of Big Ryck. The ref calls a DQ, and all 3 just batter him, basically.
Yeah.
And Big Ryck hoys him through a table.
Yep.
Poor Johnny Mundo. No Prince Puma in sight.
No, I was expecting it. Didn't happen.
So we'll see where it goes if we are to continue in the temple. Likes and dislikes from this one?
Probably more of the same, I would say. I think, there's still the appearance of some guys that I'm struggling to feel invested in. Maybe that'll come as more time passes. Some matches that are just kind of there, and I'm not sure what the longer term purpose of them was. But again, we're only 4 episodes in. And we're just still being introduced to characters. You get like with say, obviously we've done 4, but say episode 1 of a big new TV show, a lot of the time nothing really happens. They're just establishing the characters. And I think that we're still at a stage of establishing characters with what we've watched here.
Absolutely. I think we've got 21 episodes in the first season or something like that, so we're kind of scratching the surface a little bit.
Yeah.
The thing that I hope doesn't happen is we get to episode 8 and we're still introducing new characters and we're still just getting 3-ways and crazy mental, like things sort of start to bed in a little and storylines go somewhere, I suppose. So like interesting. I don't think was Chavo in that episode? I don't think so.
I don't think he was, and I was actually all right with that as well, because he'd made so much of the end of episode 2 and the first part of episode 3 were about him.
Yeah.
And then you're intrigued by that advice given to him by Konnan as well. Like, has he just got out of there? Has he, gone until the heat's off? Or is he just going to appear at any time? Which I'm fine with.
And the short, you couldn't watch this show if it was 3 hours long.
No.
The short format time definitely works for it. You're probably between the sort of, not advert breaks, but you're seeing where the advert breaks would be. You're probably only getting a good 35, 40 minutes off the show, and I think it's perfect for it, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd said we were going to watch the first 4 episodes and then decide, because I genuinely thought that you would just see the first episode and run for the hills and go, absolutely no way. It sounds like you've not hated it.
No, I'm totally happy to continue with it for now. I didn't hate it. There's bits in it that I'm finding interesting. Characters. Let's try and get to sort of an established group that we know we're going to be seeing fairly regularly. But the way the show is designed and set up interests me. It's so different from anything we've watched before, and a lot of these are new characters, but just with maybe one or two that there's that familiarity with. I enjoyed it. I watched the first 2, and then maybe a couple of days later the next 2. And I felt like 4 was a very manageable amount. That's it's about 3 hours worth, probably.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, we've done that many times when watching pay-per-views, but it didn't feel too heavy. It kind of felt like you said, manageable runtime. And there's enough keeping me intrigued about what's next.
Nice. Okay. I'm going to give you the title of episode 5, just to give you a little bit of teasing. Boyle Heights Street Fight.
Okay.
And it's got a picture of Chavo in the front there. So
okay.
Chavo's back. I don't know who's in a street fight. Hopefully Sexy Star. I've not really got it in for Sexy Star, but now you've told me that she was being a bit of a dick, then.
Yeah. Maybe just got carried away in a moment and it's ruined the career. Maybe there was beef. Maybe we don't know about it.
Maybe. How would you feel if the next episode had a death match on it? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
I don't know. I'm not. See, from what I've seen of death matches, which isn't an awful lot, I saw. Who was the guy? He's like the king of the death matches.
What, Matt Cardona? No, I'm still Nick Gage.
Nick Gage, yeah. He scares me. Like the whole concept of them scares me because there's so much that can go wrong. And we saw with that David Arquette documentary him getting the cut neck and things like that. It just freaks me out.
See, the way I can still, but as soon as you say that, I can picture him holding his neck and the way he turns around and looks at Nick Gage like, the fuck? That's horrible.
He's back in the ring after and finishes the match. I don't know. I did see it, I think, to know what I thought of it, because I am sure they can come across as far more controlled or safe than that one looked.
Oh, aye. I don't know. I just wonder, because I know that you draw the line. Certain.
I bet I would have loved that stuff when it was like 18.
Yeah, well, like when we were younger, ECW was like the greatest thing ever. So New Jack just diving off things, using his body as a cannonball sort of thing. New Jack would have worked in Lucha Underground, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I worry he'd be making it a bit too real. He would have had that briefcase. He would have been away with it.
Oh, New Jack and Big Ryck. Maybe there's a higher power angle and it's New Jack.
He would have cut Big Ryck and been away with that briefcase.
Class. Have you ever? You will have the dark because you'll have saw the Dark Side of the Ring. The video of him like stabbing that guy in the ring. Crazy.
There was something wrong with that guy.
Definitely. It's so funny to think that Cornette sort of gave him his. I don't know. Was it Smoky Mountain? No.
He definitely worked in Smoky Mountain. Yeah.
Did he? Aye.
Yeah, it was like it was a tag team, and they
what they called the Gangsters. Aye.
Yeah.
And D'Lo Brown was part of them.
I think he was. I don't know how active he was in the ring, but I think he was maybe there with them.
Aye.
Yeah.
How on earth have we got onto that? Okay, so we'll stride on with Lucha.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to ask you, if you thought that 4 episodes was kind of like a sweet spot, but you've said that
it felt like it was for me. I think, let's see how the next 4 go, and if we feel like we want to change that, we can speak about that. But let's do the next 4. It felt manageable. As I said, I did it 2 at a time, and it kind of it's an hour and a half of wrestling at a time, which didn't really always feel like wrestling, but it felt like a sort of a good amount to be watching at a time.
Does it feel like it's scratching your wrestling itch?
Yeah, it's just so different, which I think we were ready for, weren't we? We were ready for something different. Yeah.
That Raw really left a horrible taste in my mouth. I think this sort of refreshed that. That Raw.
Interesting. There's someone at my work who watches wrestling who watched the second Raw and much preferred it to the first one. Just said, obviously the first one was not necessarily for wrestling fans, but apparently the second one was a bit shorter as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Appeals to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, 3 hours of wrestling's not, especially when you were getting, I don't know, you had like 3 matches in it or something.
Yeah, and just all these gaps, just all this filler.
Yeah. What about Joe Hendry, TNA champion?
Oh, yeah, you'd be delighted for your boy.
What a guy, yeah. What a guy.
Is he going to turn up at the Rumble?
Surely.
Yeah,
they did it with
so.
What's her name? The little muscular female. She was Knockouts champion, wasn't she? Jordan Grace.
Yeah.
I couldn't see them. What do you think Michael Cole would say if Nick Nemeth came out as TNA champion? He used to work here as Dolph. Did you see that TNA and WWE announced a partnership, like a formal partnership agreement?
I think it's quite a long-term thing,
right?
That they're looking at. Interesting.
Aye. I seen there was some NXT folks. What is JBL doing? He turned up again at that pay-per-view last night. He just have you ever? There's like random videos of him turning up in like indie shows in like school gyms and stuff like that. Just close people.
I was listening to. He's been covering the Something to Wrestle podcast. Well, Bruce Pritchard's been unavailable to do it, and it's quite interesting because I think a lot of us all have our opinions of JBL. He's quite a good storyteller.
Is he?
And he's been funny in these shows. There was a funny exchange last week where there's like taking fan questions, and one of them was, why did JBL wear a white hat? And as Conrad's asked him the question, he's like, because it's traditional for the heels to wear a black hat. And he's like, yeah, that's why JBL wears a white hat. He's a babyface. You think that guy's a heel? So I thought it was making me laugh. But yeah, apparently he's, he doesn't need to work. I think he's done quite well for himself financially. But he was bored, and apparently it was Bruce Pritchard that he started speaking to about an idea of what he could start doing. And they kind of put together this plan about him going to all these areas and just being JBL and then destroying folk and things like that. And I think he is going to turn up on a Raw, which he'd said was never even in his mind that he would do that. He just wanted to go places and have fun. So, yeah, be interesting to see where he goes next. It's a funny one because I think he must have done announcing for years. He can't have been active as a performer for a long time, and then all of a sudden he's just decided to start doing stuff. It sounds like he just missed the itch and the buzz of doing wrestling stuff.
I love it. I love that he's just that sounds like he's fully committed to it and just went, I'm going to go to like these, and you couldn't do that without the internet, of course, but this turning up in like really random shows and just clotheslining people and walking it out is just brilliant.
He said it's not a money thing. He's not in it for the money. He just wants to enjoy himself and misses the buzz of doing it. So,
Did I see him talking about that he was on testosterone or something like that? It's totally changed his life.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why he's went. You know, you're talking about him announcing for such a long. He wasn't a great announcer.
No. Yeah.
WWE did try and put him with Baron Corbin, didn't they?
I think so.
He's been cut.
Yeah, because I think we talked a while ago about having way more appreciation for the JBL character, looking back on it, than a lot of people had when it was actually an active thing. It seems more interesting now looking back on it.
Oh, his promos and that we were enjoying them. Like in recent years compared to thinking he was just boring and what is this class like that. Be seeing Joe Hendry soon in March. It's the 10th year anniversary of Discovery Wrestling, so be hoping my boys will be hoping to get a photo with the TNA title.
Nice.
That'd be cool. I'll definitely be hoping to get. Well, I'll take my luchador mask and get a photo with the TNA title.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we'll get back into Lucha Underground next week. Up to episode 8, and see where we go for there.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, remember when you go to bed tonight to look under the bed for Big Ryck or Dario Cueto or Mil Muertes. For that matter,
if it's Big Ryck, I'm moving house.
If it's
any of the rest, I think I'd be okay.
If it's Katarina, then call Matt Striker immediately. Cool. Right, we'll catch up in a couple of weeks then.
Nice.
Okay, buddy. Take it easy.